Caretaker Prime Minister, we can now cross to our chief political correspondent, Catherine Forster, who has been in the chamber, taking it all in. What stood out for you, Catherine?
Yes, good afternoon from Westminster Hall, the oldest part of Parliament. Lots of kids on school trips just before Christmas. I thought Kemi Badenoch was absolutely brutal on the Prime Minister today, starting with that question, why are your own MPs describing you as a caretaker Prime Minister? The Prime Minister started talking about his record, but then she went over and over again, a bit like a school teacher, asking a child that hadn't been paying attention for figures on their record, on energy bills, on teachers, on the Home Office, on health. In every example, she asked a question and then basically said things have got worse under Labour. Of course, the PM would absolutely refute that. But it really struck me, we're so used in Westminster to speculating about Kemi Badenoch and when Conservative MPs might take her out. That's really changed recently. She's got so much better in Prime Minister's questions, and more the speculation here is how long the Prime Minister's got, how long the Chancellor has got. Labour MPs thoroughly fed up that I have spoken to, and Kemi Badenoch quoting those concerns back at him, including the allegation that Angela Rayner has said that she'd rather stick pins in her eyes than support a leadership bid from Wes Streeting. So she said everything under Labour, everything is getting worse, Labour isn't working. And from Sir Ed Davey of the Lib Dems, yes, of course, he did the bashing of Trump. He commented on what Donald Trump had said about Europe and civilizational Eurasia. He invited the Prime Minister to take a pop at Donald Trump. Of course, the Prime Minister would not do that, never does that, but says that he stands for a strong Europe, a united behind Ukraine, and long-standing support for freedom and democracy. And then Ed Davey also brought up that vote yesterday on the customs union, where about a dozen Labour MPs voted to rejoin a hypothetical customs union, and saying, well, why don't we do that? Why don't we do that? Because it would bring the growth that we so desperately need. The Prime Minister having absolutely none of it at the moment. Of course, that could always change, but saying, look, we've done this deal with America, we've done deals with India, we don't want to start unpicking them. But I did think Kemi Badenoch, 100% from my mind, won this PMQs, and it feels like the Prime Minister very much on the back foot, and I'm sure really looking forward to perhaps a little bit of a break over Christmas. Maybe he might get a day or two.
Catherine Forster, thank you for joining us there from Westminster Hall. Now we're back in the studio here with Labour MP for Newcastle upon Tyne North, Catherine McKinnell, and the Shadow Secretary of State for Scotland, Andrew Bowie. To you first, Catherine McKinnell, what didn't come up in that session of PMQs was the grooming gangs inquiry. Dan's got in touch asking this: if Baroness Longfield, Anne Longfield, the former Children's Commissioner, is qualified to chair the National Inquiry, why didn't you as a government appoint her 6 months ago? And why haven't these survivors, who are yet to meet Anne Longfield, I think they meet today, by the way, why weren't they involved in drafting the draft terms of reference?
So it's absolutely right to take a huge interest in this. It is
You're a former schools minister.
It's
you know about this policy
incredible
with children.
miscarriage of justice and scandal that needs to be addressed and has been unaddressed for far too long. I think it's a great appointment. Anne Longfield has a very long track record of championing children and children's rights. She was appointed by David Cameron to the to advise the former government. So she doesn't operate on party political lines. She has children first and foremost. So I think as a really respected figure to really get to the bottom of what has happened and to go where the evidence takes her and to make sure that we can finally draw a line under this terrible scar on our country and learn the lessons, move on, rebuild and put things right.
Andrew Bowie from the Conservatives. As Catherine McKinnell said, it was David Cameron who first appointed Anne Longfield as the Children's Commissioner under a Tory government. So presumably politics is out of this now. You support the appointment, you wish this inquiry well, and both parties will work together on this. Am I right to assume that?
We do welcome the appointment, and we welcome the progress towards getting the inquiry up and running. We regret that it's taken as long as it has to appoint a chair. I think the victims and their families deserved far quicker action than what we've seen. But no, of course we welcome the appointment. And what's really important now is that they get to work and that we get some justice for those victims who've suffered the most heinous crimes at the hands.
Why
of
do you
these,
sit on your hands for so
criminals.
long? Why do your government not doing anything for 14? No, but you didn't. I mean, the Blair government before that didn't do much. It was known about through several inquiries. The Tories did nothing.
That's not quite true, Chris. I mean, of course, we did a lot. We brought forward a lot in terms of moving towards a place where a national inquiry was the right thing to do. I'm glad that the national inquiry has now been brought, thanks to Conservative pressure. I'm very glad that the chair has now been appointed, and I think it's important that it now gets to work.
And Catherine McKinnell, the suggestion that the Labour Party has been dragged kicking and screaming to have this inquiry in the first place. They're quite resistant to it in the beginning. Is it a fair criticism from the Tories that this should have been done ages ago?
I think what's frustrating, and I understand why people feel frustrated, is the lack of action. There's too much talk, not enough action being taken. And I think the concern about having another inquiry when we had one that had lots of recommendations that are still not implemented, let's get on with the action. But I also understand the need for that transparency, for that trust in the process. And so this is an opportunity to really build from here, get that trust and see that action implemented. That's what this needs to deliver.
Anne Longfield is someone who championed children in the past as Children's Commissioner. She saw the world from a child-centric view. These are people, adults now, who were children when they were abused or raped, and they've got to trust authority. Why can't Jess Phillips get that trust from these victims? There's a problem in the summer. We think the victims are meeting with Anne Longfield today. What does Jess Phillips and others in authority need to do to win the support of the victims?
So Jess Phillips has a long track record of championing women's rights, girls' rights.
I know that. So why,
she's incredibly strong on these issues. I think it's understandable that there has been a lack of trust in authority because these people, the victims, the survivors, have been let down time and time again. So it's understandable that they're asking questions, that they want to have transparency, they want to understand the process. And I think we need someone that will bring everyone together. Yes, those in authority, because they need to answer for this. They need to put the action in place, but also someone to champion them. And I think Anne Longfield will do a good job of bringing all of this together.
And Andrew Barrett, as this inquiry moves forward, just in the sense that we don't want any more politics in this?
No, I do wish... I mean, the really important people, but the people that matter right now are...
At first,